Where are we going? Where are we going?
Grandma, what is
Tell
it?
that's
like
the map.
always-
It's the map. The map tells you where you're going, right?
It is
That what
clear
Dora
to you
said?
by this point that we have not seen enough Dora.
No. Who's Dora? Well, I've never heard of that before. If you haven't heard of that, it's because you haven't had small children in the last 20 years.
I was talking with someone about Dora a while back, and I was like, well, you know who Dora is. Your television privileges have been, or your cartoon privileges have been revoked.
Because they don't know who Dora is?
She did know who Dora was.
Oh, she
I
did?
was like, cartoon privileges revoked, and then she was like, but they have a live action. I was like,
There's that. Yeah, there's that.
or maybe it was the other way around. I don't remember exactly how that conversation went. I've slept since then. But anyway, today we're talking about references in prayer, references to prayer in 2 Samuel.
Which really has nothing to do with Dora. I don't think there's a Dora.
Has Dora ever
Anywhere.
prayed?
I bet not. I bet it's
Heathen!
secular show, definitely.
After
Not a
the
lot
Spanish
of prayer.
Inquisition, you'd think she'd do better.
Yeah, well, you know.
She's Spanish. Yeah.
I'm not sure where she's from. Spanish. What I mean.
Oh,
you know,
that's fair.
She could be from South America,
Yeah,
Central America,
yeah.
or
She knows
Something.
Spanish. And that's
she
the important
does know
thing.
Spanish.
She also wears a pink shirt
Okay, if you say so.
and like purple
You
shorts.
you know way too much about Dora.
I have younger sisters.
But what do you know about David praying for his child?
I know that
Maybe-
he did it.
Maybe that child was going to be named Dora. You never know. Probably not.
Does Dora mean anything in Hebrew?
I don't think Dora is a Hebrew word.
Get your phone, look it up.
Look
So
up Dora.
today we're first going to be looking at 2 Samuel chapter 12 verse 16. David therefore sought God on behalf of the child.
What?
The child.
No, this is not. No,
David prayed for baby Yoda.
Oh, no.
This
no.
is so much
The
better than
Mandalorian
Dora.
has nothing to do with
David prayed for baby Yoda. If you take anything away from this prayer video, I want you to know this.
this. No.
2 Samuel chapter 12 verse 16. What translation is this?
That's the English Standard Version.
English Standard Version is the best Bible ever because in it David prays for baby Yoda.
Grogu. Oh, spoiler alert. Sorry about that. He was going to name the child. Well, anyway. Now that we know that, I think we'll okay. Wow.
This video
3
took
minutes
a turn.
you'll never get back. Okay.
Yeah.
Back to the reality of the Bible story, which has nothing to do with Dora or the Mandalorian.
As far as you know.
Yeah,
It was a long time ago.
It was not in a galaxy far, far away, though. It was right here on Earth.
But how do you know he didn't come over here at some point?
Because he can't travel that fast, that far. Anyway.
I understand how hyperspace works. Okay. And David fasted and went in and lay all night on the ground.
So David sought
Presumably without sleeping.
God on behalf of his child, not the child. And
That's not what the Bible says, Dad. Stop being a heretic, Dad.
but David is certainly praying here. There's no doubt about that part.
For
Even
a
if
little
we
green
can't,
boy with wrinkles.
Well, okay. So we actually know the story here is David and Bathsheba had an illegitimate child, and
I mean, you ever think about where that 80-year-old kid came from? Maybe David was also green.
I don't.
Maybe David is Yoda.
Can we get back to the point? No.
The point, like Yoda's ears, they're pointy.
Well, I hope y'all are enjoying this as much as I am.
Okay, so David did a prayer thing, and
he and Bathsheba had a child that was an illegitimate child because she had a husband.
not good.
And he killed the husband, and so all sorts of bad things happened in that story. And so God was going to punish him, but instead of killing David, God said, "Well, I'll tell you what, your child's going to die," because I mean, most loving parents would probably agree that that's a worse punishment to them than
just realized
anything
what
that
I've
God
done.
could do to them.
I set it up so that God kills Baby Yoda.
Well,
I'm so sad now. You're gonna have to finish this video without me.
wait, does that mean that... No, that can't be right.
Adam Driver is God.
Definitely not.
Very not true.
That's no. Ben Solo is not. No, definitely not. So you're so confused.
He did bring Rey back from the dead, though.
Whew, who knew this was going to be a Star Wars video? If you haven't watched Star Wars, you probably know more about it than you want to now. Anyway, let's move on to one that doesn't have anything to do.
Second Samuel. Oh, you just wait.
Oh,
Second
no.
Samuel chapter 15 verses 7 through 8. And at the end of
By the way, the child did die, and so God said no to that prayer of David.
Yes.
By the way,
Yes.
I mean the child did die, and then David just got up and went on about his life like nothing was wrong. That's kind of weird in and of itself. Okay, so second prayer in 2 Samuel that's referred to but not explicitly explained.
And at the end of 4 years, Absalom said to the king, "Please let me go and pay my vow, which I have vowed to the Lord in Hebron. For your servant vowed a vow while I lived at Tatooine in Aram, saying," sorry, what?
I don't think Tatooine is mentioned there.
It's definitely there.
No.
If the Lord will indeed bring me back to Jerusalem, then I will offer worship to the Lord.
That was Jesher in Aram, by the way. Not.
Oh yeah, I forgot to fix that. My
Yeah.
bad.
And this is 2 Samuel 15 verses 7 and 8.
We've said that 3 times now.
That's good. We needed to say it 3 times.
You can
So-
go back and check.
So when he talks about having vowed a vow to the Lord, this of course would involve him talking to the Lord in some way, and he also explains his vow, and it was basically that if the Lord would bring him back to Jerusalem, then he would worship the Lord. So kind of a let's make a deal type of a prayer that he had made. And of course, he also mentions that he's going to offer worship to the Lord, which oftentimes does also involve praying. So we got several situations
And
of prayer involved.
would like to point out that because of the way logic works, a lot of people commonly will look at things like, well, if you bring me back to Jerusalem, then I'll offer worship to you. What he is not saying there is that if God doesn't bring him back to Jerusalem, then he won't offer worship to him.
Yeah, people often misunderstand the if-then statements in the Bible and elsewhere in life.
Mm-hmm.
The way that a negative works in an if-then statement is a little different. So he would actually be saying the opposite of that. The negative of this statement would be, if I do not offer worship to the Lord, then the Lord did not bring me back to Jerusalem. And so that's kind of weird the way that works. But sometimes when we read an if-then statement, we do misapply it because we don't follow the formula for the logic that kind of works in sort of a mathematical way.
Logic is important in the Bible and
It
in
is.
life.
And Jesus uses it a lot in his teachings.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of times where he
Paul
outwits...
does too.
Oh, Paul definitely uses logical arguments that built upon one another many times. Deductive reasoning is a big thing with him, to making one logical deduction and then building another on top of that one.
The last thing that we'll be saying on this video is Judah. So 2 Samuel 21, 1 through 2. Now there was a famine in the days of David for 3 years, year after year after year.
That's
The
year
second-
after year after... Yep, that's 3 years.
Well, see, the third one wasn't included there, so I had to add it in so that it
Oh.
would be correct. You know, problems with the Bible, we have to cover those up so that, No.
It
The
just
third
says year
year is
after year.
obviously implied. I mean,
Yeah.
come on, you guys. It was
Well, it just
said
means
earlier.
back to
so-
back. 3
back
years
to
back to
back,
back.
yes.
Not like a year here and then 10 years later another year, but 3 years right in a row,
Yeah.
year after year.
Very important. And David sought the face of the Lord. There's that phrase again.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit different
Little.
this time.
This time he's seeking his face.
And the Lord said, "There is blood guilt on Saul and on his house, because he put the Gibeonites to death." So, backstory time. If you're not familiar with Judges, you're like, hang on, who, what?
Joshua.
Joshua, sorry. Wrong
Judges
J
was a
book.
whole different set of
Very-
stories.
yes. So anyway,
I don't know if there were any there was Gibeonites. There was.
in the book of Yeshua, where they're, going around and killing all the people in Canaan, and it's just good times all around.
Unless you're Canaanite.
Unless you're Canaanite. The Gibeonites, who are members of Canaan,
Members of Canaan.
they
Is it like a club?
they are humanistic peoples who live within the boundaries of the realm, usually known
humanistic?
as
Oh.
Canaan. So they
humanoid, I think. is the word.
humanoid.
Yeah,
Humanoid.
word
They were humanoidistic peoples who lived within the land that is generally formally recognized as Canaan. So technically Canaanites, although the Canaanites were actually a kind of
A
different
specific
group of
group.
people, which
Yeah,
is
within
always odd to me.
Canaan.
Like, you live in Canaan. Why aren't all of them Canaanites?
Well, it's like they're Americans who all live in America,
Mhm.
and then there are Texans who also live in America,
But they're not
but
Americans.
they're not American. They're
No.
Texans. So you know.
Texans are very different. Shout out to all you Texans. Don't shoot us. No.
They have plenty of guns to do it with.
Oh yeah, they do.
I wonder how many guns the average Texan has. It's probably like 12.
If it's less than 5, I will be severely disappointed in
I
Texas.
thought you were gonna offer to eat your hat or something like that.
No, I've licked that thing before. It's not tasty.
All right, so you've got these Gibeonites, and they see that the Israelites are slaughtering everybody, and they're like, "We don't want to be slaughtered." I don't.
Yeah.
You know, some people are like that. They just don't like to be slaughtered.
Wimps.
So
Sorry,
of
what?
course they deceive Joshua and lie to him, and
Mhm.
know,
They're like, we
oh,
come from very far
very
away.
far away, and look at
And
this
even
moldy
from-
bread, and look
even
at how
from
worn
far
our clothes
away,
are. And,
Even from far away,
Yeah.
we've noticed you like killing people, and we would like to not be one of the people that you like killing, so can you be friends with us, please? And he's like, yeah, you look like you come from really far away. We'll do that without asking God about anything first. We're not going to kill any of your peoples. And so then God shows up, and he's like,
because they made the mistake of not asking God first.
I emphasized that.
Yeah.
And so God shows up and he's like, I told you to not make the deals with the bad people. And he's like, but these people are from very far away, so they're not the bad people. And God's like, yeah, but they tricked you, though. And so then they
But
still...
he said, "You still got to keep your promise."
You still have to stick with the deal, because, hey, a deal's a deal, even if the other side tricked you into making the deal, apparently. Which is interesting for future reference for good guys. Don't make deals unless you know what you're getting into. Sorry about that. So, they made the deal. And then Saul, million whatever years later, not millions actually, closer to hundreds, if even that,
Dozens at least.
dozens.
It was a couple
Teen
hundred,
dozen.
400, 200, 300.
Time passes, because that's a thing that time
Later.
likes to do. Meanwhile, in the future,
I don't think you can have meanwhile in the future.
that's totally the way time works. It's actually like it runs over top of each other, so you have meanwhile, but in the future. So anyway, meanwhile in the future, Saul's like, hey, that deal was a bad deal, and these people over there that we made that deal with were not being nice to me, so I'm going to do the bad things to them, and which we agreed to not do. So they're dead now.
Yeah.
And God's like, David, Saul did a bad thing when he broke the deal about the not with the people that you weren't supposed to do the things with and all that. And so he is like, you got to do things about this. So back to our regularly scheduled programming. Are you to Texas yet?
Oh no, see for some reason it starts at the least gun state, which was New York, shockingly. Texas is number 1, so it's going to take a long time for me to get there.
Are we sure Texas
Oh
is
yeah,
number
yeah.
one?
There was another article that clearly explained that Texas is number 1.
Good boys.
Yeah, yeah. It was they say the average American who now not all Americans own guns, but of the Americans who do own guns, the average is 4.8. You know it's higher than that in Texas.
Texas.
So,
Texas better be doing that.
Wait,
What?
this says Wyoming. Oh, highest number per capita because there's not many people that live in Wyoming, and a lot less people who don't. Wow, they have one gun for every 5 people.
Wait.
One gun for 114,000 guns and 582,000 people.
Mm.
In
For every 1,000 residents, there are 100.
95.7 guns. Yeah. So that's of course. I mean, obviously, there's probably some people that don't own guns.
Yeah. Okay.
And so anyway,
So, actually, that is the next word. So, the king called the Gibeonites and spoke to them. That's the end. You're welcome. No, it's not.
No.
Now, the Gibeonites were not of the people of Israel, but of the remnant of the Amorites.
We just explained that. Okay, so
I hate it when it explains things that I already explained that I could have saved time by not explaining if I'd known that it was going to explain. Even though it didn't explain as thoroughly as I explained. So, backstory is helpful.
Yeah. Well, they expected the Jews reading that would already know the backstory a little bit, at least. But,
It explains more. Although the people of Israel had sworn to spare them, Saul had sought to strike them down in his zeal for the people of Israel and Judah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he thought he was doing a good thing. Saul did a lot of
Just
thinking.
like how I thought I was doing a good thing by explaining everything for 10 minutes, and then it goes ahead and explains everything in a couple of sentences. I had fun though, and that's what matters.
Oh, fun is very important.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am really confused by this because I know that one thing said that Texas had more guns than any other state. We talked about Wyoming. It makes sense. I mean, you're a cattle rancher out there. Texas is number 18. 18? You got to step it up, Texas. I don't understand. Why don't y'all have more guns?
What year is this?
They only have I don't know. It's CBS News some sort of research they did. 337,000 guns registered. That's the registered ones. There's
Texas
okay,
being sneaky.
So it says the actual numbers are probably higher because Texans are not required to register their firearms.
Oh.
See, that's like, I mean.
Yeah, they've got to have at least double that.
I mean, yeah, and the only time you would have it registered
not
would be
counting the grenade launchers.
Well, if you had like a concealed carry permit, you'd have to, you'd be registered to have a concealed carry permit.
Did you hear about
this?
But
if you just got a shotgun or a rifle for hunting or something,
Did you hear about the time this guy tried to drop off a grenade launcher at Goodwill? Because why not? But it was actually loaded, and he didn't know about it.
Yeah, you never know who might. I mean, because poor people can't afford to buy
grenade launchers are expensive.
Yes, I mean. So yeah, I mean, really thoughtful of him to leave
Moral
one at Goodwill.
of this video.
I wonder how much they priced that at.
I don't know.
I mean, Goodwill sells a lot of stuff.
I'm trying to remember if they actually took it or not, because I mean, it is a grenade launcher, and Goodwill.
Well, they probably didn't find out until after he'd left that they even had it. They probably had call the police and go, well, we don't know what to do with this thing.
I mean, hey, I'd buy one of those.
Army surplus store.
Yeah,
I saw one somewhere recently.
Really?
Yeah. There's up near McCaysville, I think, somewhere. Anyway, so
wait, an Army surplus store?
Yeah, not a grenade launcher. I mean, I
did
see that missile.
You said a grenade
launcher.
I did
see the missile thing sitting out in front of that fireworks.
Oh, yeah, that's
place.
true.
But anyway, all right. So here are these 3 times of prayer. David praying about his child, who God says no, and he dies. In the case of Absalom, I mean, God obviously did bring him back to the land, and we assume that he goes to pay his vow like he said he was going to. And then, of course, we have the situation with Saul having killed the Gibeonites, and David wants to make that right, and God says, well, make it right. This is the problem. And so David makes it right, and they wind up killing some of Saul's descendants for the Gibeonites. But David
gotta
is sure,
love the Old Testament.
Yeah, David is sure to not kill any of Jonathan's offspring because he promised Jonathan that he would watch out for his.
And considering that all this
children
problem happened because somebody didn't keep promises,
yeah, it's probably good not to neglect your promises.
yeah, it's interesting
Keep
that
your promises.
David does good.
Yeah, he does good. He killed people.
Mhm.
How nice of him. So,
Very polite man. So
killed him.
In summary, and in the moral of this story, David prayed for Baby Yoda. Always buy a grenade launcher.
I don't. And
Summaries are
Texas
really
does not have
fun.
enough guns.
Texas, well, they probably do have enough guns, just not
they
on
don't.
record.
We don't have them all registered
Which-
to know about.
For considering Texas's history, it's probably good that they don't have them all
But
registered.
we saw
so that they
Wyoming
can
was number one
unregistered guns.
registered guns. You'll never guess where number 2 is.
Indiana,
No, it's not a state. It's not a state.
DC.
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Oh, that's the amazing thing. DC.
We're done
where
with
they
this now.
All right. So hopefully you've learned about guns, Star Wars,
And
and
buy Baby Yoda rocket launchers.
do they make those? That's
Oh, I'm sure somebody makes those, or at least like an adaptation.
well, you get those little whistling things that he shoots out of his.
Oh yeah, what
arm
are those?
thing.
The dying birds.
Whistling
birds?
Whistling birds. Anyway. All right. So thank you for suffering through this 20 minutes.
No suffering. This was very fun, and you know
You
it.
have a very different definition of fun than some people.
That's fair.
We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Hey.
First Kings next time.
Hey, you ready?
What are we ready for? Oh yeah, the last word.
Judah.